Welcome to the channel. Be sure to follow us on Facebook. Today we're talking about Tyla, the South African singer who had the whole world vibing with water back in 2023. She was on the rise, even being called the next Rihanna. But her brand new EP just flopped with only 3,700 sales in the first week. But why? Well, a lot of people are pointing back to her Breakfast Club interview where she dodged questions about calling herself colored, a word that carries a very different history for Black Americans. Instead of explaining, her team shut it down, and that rubbed folks the wrong way. Many feel she missed a chance to show solidarity with Black Americans, and that disconnect may have cost her heavily in the US market. Commentators online say all she had to do was break it down simply, explain that in South Africa, colored is a cultural identity, not a slur. But by skipping that convo, fans started feeling distant. Now some are saying she may be able to bounce back, but maybe she needs a new team who understands how to move in the American market. But I'm not so sure about that, especially given how South Africans are responding. They're blaming Black Americans, but here's the question. Why didn't African immigrants support her? Why are Black Americans being singled out? According to Pew Research Center, in 2019, African-born Black immigrants alone numbered around 2 million, and it's estimated that about 130,000 of those are South Africans. So again, why is the responsibility being placed only on Black Americans? What about African immigrants, especially South Africans? And let's not ignore the fact that Tyla is also part Indian. Why isn't anyone demanding answers from the Indian American community? They're the highest earning ethnic group in the United States. According to Pew Research Center, there were approximately 5 million Indian Americans as of 2023, many thriving in medicine, technology, and STEM fields. If the argument is about community support, then why aren't all of her communities being held accountable, not just one? Let's take a look at some reactions to the controversy. In this first video, the creator suggests that while the Breakfast Club interview could be a factor in Tyla losing support from Black Americans, another simple reason is that not everyone connects with her music.
So when I said Tyla is a one-hit wonder, I meant it on the context of her album sales, her overall impact, and just the desirability to hear her music. I did not know that there's so much controversy around Tyla and how she's consumed by Black people. But it kind of all makes sense now. First thing I want to mention is that a lot of people are like, Tyla's, a lot of people in my comments from my last video, you're picking on a child, she's young. Tyla's a grown-ass woman that makes secular music about basically having sex. She's grown. She has a Grammy. She is in the studio. She's a grown woman. And she has to be, if you're going to make music about grown woman shit, then you're going to be addressed as a grown woman when certain things happen. So all that, she's a girl, she's a little girl, that woman is grown. She's 23 years old. Shit, Ariana Grande was 15 when she came. Like, stop pacifying. And that's the girl's problems. Everybody wants to make them into these babies and they're so young. They're grown women. Let them make the music and get critiqued for it. But this protection from critiquing them is so weird and just, it's not productive or helpful to them. But I digress. But the reason people are giving Tyla a hard time is because she's made something about being colored and South Africa, blah, 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 blah. The thing is, and why people are really dragging Tyla and her music, is because all of this could have easily been addressed. Yes, Tyla is young, so there's a lot of things she probably doesn't understand around Black African-American politics and African-American history, and that is forgivable. However, there's a lot of money and a lot of resources behind her. There's enough people in her camp and her team to tell her what to do to make this right, and they didn't. What was that Breakfast Club interview where Charlamagne asked her the question? It was actually a good question. And she just didn't answer, turned to her PR person. They said no, and she just didn't address it. Okay, cool. You're not going to address it. So we're not interested. I don't think that's the only reason why Tyla's music is flopping. I think Tyla just is not interesting as an artist, and there has not been a lot of effort to market her to a Black American audience. But at the same time, they keep putting her in Black American spaces. The BET, it was the Breakfast Club. These are Black spaces. So if you're going to put her in Black spaces in our face to market her, there has to be also some attention to the things she does that offends us. And if you don't care, we don't care. I mean, if y'all like her so much in South Africa, buy her music.
In this next video, the creator blames xenophobia from Tyla's South African fans as the reason her EP didn't do well.
Tyla's album didn't flop because of Black Americans. Tyla's album is flopping because her fans. Her fans essentially set her up for failure by being xenophobic, especially towards Black Americans, and claiming that we lack culture. After her using the term color to describe herself, a term that is frequently used for her specific ethnic group within South Africa, but is derogatory and roots from racism and slavery in America. Black Americans have single-handedly been the backbone for American music throughout Hollywood and mainstream media forever, essentially. And a lot of genres of music are rooted in Black American culture. So as a foreigner, to not educate yourself on how certain terms that may be familiar to you are not appropriate to use when you are going to another country and when you are trying to assimilate into a new culture is really just a failure on her PR and her management's part. However, to play devil's advocate, Black Americans have also made it a point to separate themselves from Africans. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that because we are very different culturally, as is every single different country in Africa. But we have made it a point to specifically separate ourselves, and not necessarily even in the best ways. A lot of times it has been very derogatory. I remember growing up, I used to hear the term African booty scratcher used to refer to Africans as primitive or less than and lacking. And it essentially was a slur to separate us from them. So with African music becoming more popular within mainstream American music, instead of bridging the gap, it has only increased that gap. With Africans not wanting to be grouped together with Black Americans and vice versa, and celebrating those downfalls and differences, instead of using our similarities to be grouped together, because that's what we'll all be seen as.
And in this last clip, the creator blames the Breakfast Club interview, Tyla's arrogant personality, and her South African fan base.
So Tyla's EP sales are all the way in hell, and people are wondering why. And baby, I'll tell you why. This lady did not have a good introduction to the US market at all. Like, yes, her team is working overtime to make her a star. She done won a bunch of awards. Her fashions are always on point. She pops up at every pop culture event, right? She's been at the Met Gala, at Fashion Week, anywhere where the cameras are. However, where the disconnect happened is that a lot of people were turned off by her personality, especially Black Americans, after that interview with the Breakfast Club. Acting like she was too good to answer that question was such a bad move, especially since she was on a Black platform, a Black radio show, talking to her predominantly Black audience, and refused to answer a question about her ethnic racial identity. Rather than coming out with a story post later, she literally could have said, "I know the term colored is controversial here, but that is what I'm considered in South Africa. In American lingo, I would be either mixed or Black." And by not doing that, this rubbed a lot of African Americans the wrong way, with some even saying that Tyla was trying to deny her Blackness, even though she wanted the Black dollars. And then her personality don't be doing it for folks either, because people are still not over how she tried to get Halle Bailey to hold her award. And then there was the time she wore a Britney Spears coded outfit to her Coachella set, but then said that there was no inspiration, which led to this heated exchange between Tyla and a fan. Yeah, Tyla was trying to channel those early Twitter days snarky Rihanna energy, but instead she just comes off as rude here. Her South African fan base also made her unlikable because they were antagonizing African Americans and made it seem like Tyla didn't need our support, and you see where that got her.
At the end of the day, Tyla's talent is undeniable, but her career highlights something bigger: the way identity, culture, and accountability collide in the music industry. If we're going to have this conversation, then it can't just fall on one group. The real question is, who do we hold responsible for supporting artists when they rise, and who takes the blame when they fall? Let me know what you think in the comments, and be sure to like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell. See you on the next video.